And the father said to his son, in Italian, because I understand Italian, he said, "Che brutta." You know, why do you bring me this ugly thing?
Whoa.
For over 40 years, she's been the gold standard of Hollywood. But her standard? It's razor sharp. She's not the kind of actress who screams across a set. She doesn't need to. Her silence hits harder. Her distance is colder. Her cutoffs are surgical. From Sophie's Choice to Doubt, from The Iron Lady to Big Little Lies, Meryl Streep shaped entire decades of cinema. But there's something she values even more than performance: integrity. And if you miss the mark once, she'll never say it out loud. You'll just notice the next job never comes.
We always feel, you always want to do something better after the fact, but you know.
She's worked with acting legends: Hoffman, Day-Lewis, Hanks, and even DiCaprio. But not everyone got a second shot. Here are 6 actors Meryl Streep quietly cut from her world, and why they never came back. What you're about to see might just change the way you think. Stick around, you won't believe the twist at the end. Number 1. Dustin Hoffman. When Kramer vs. Kramer hit theaters in 1979, it looked like the perfect storm of talent. Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman, 2 future icons, delivering career-defining performances. Their chemistry on screen was electric. But what audiences didn't know was that behind the scenes, things were far from harmonious. Hoffman, known for his method intensity, brought a brutal edge to the set. He stayed in character between takes, he improvised lines, he pushed his co-stars, sometimes to their emotional limits. And with Streep, who was grieving the recent death of her partner, John Cazale, he didn't hold back. Reports from the shoot paint a clear picture. Hoffman slapped her in a scene without warning. He goaded her before takes. He even yelled at her off-camera to provoke real emotion. Streep later called it overstepping. She said, "That was my first film, and it was an education." It wasn't just one day. It was the atmosphere. Hoffman treated the production like a battlefield, and Streep became a casualty of his process. She was young, relatively unknown, and still mourning. He was at the peak of his power and pushed boundaries without consequence. The performance was undeniable, but the relationship never recovered. They never worked together again, not on film, not on stage. And while both have addressed the past, there's always a sense of unfinished business, cold, quiet, and unresolved. Even during award seasons and retrospectives, the two have avoided sharing a stage. No reunions, no public warmth, just a legendary film with a legendary fracture beneath it. For Meryl Streep, forgiveness may be possible, but forgetting, never. Not when the pain was built into the performance, not when the applause came at a personal cost. Number 2. Bruce Willis. When Death Becomes Her hit theaters in 1992, it marked a rare moment. Meryl Streep in a black comedy opposite Bruce Willis. On paper, it was box office gold. Streep, an acting powerhouse with serious dramatic weight. Willis, a massive star fresh off Die Hard fame. But behind the scenes, the chemistry wasn't chemistry, it was collision. The tension didn't erupt in screaming matches, it simmered in silence, in missed beats, in scenes that just didn't click. Streep was meticulous. She dissected every line, every gesture. Willis, by contrast, was looser, more instinctual, less rehearsed. That approach she reportedly found infuriating. Crew members recalled long pauses between takes as directors tried to recalibrate the energy. Streep wanted precision, Willis wanted flow, and when those styles clashed, the set grew cold. According to one production assistant, it was like watching 2 different movies happen at once. Hers was art, his was instinct. Streep has always championed actors who match her intensity, people like Daniel Day-Lewis, Viola Davis, or Philip Seymour Hoffman, performers who live inside the script. Willis was, as she allegedly described in private, winging it. That wasn't just incompatible, it was unacceptable. The final product was glossy and clever, but something felt off. Critics praised Streep's performance but noted that Willis seemed out of place, like he was in a different film entirely. That's no accident. Their dynamic had fractured from day one, and it never healed. In interviews afterward, Streep never publicly criticized Willis. She didn't need to. She never worked with him again. Not on screen, not at events, not in panels or retrospectives. Her silence was the message. When asked once if she'd ever do another comedy like Death Becomes Her, she simply smiled and said, "Some experiences don't need repeating." Willis, for his part, kept his distance. As his career pivoted deeper into action and away from ensemble drama, Streep moved further into prestige roles, period dramas, literary adaptations, Oscar territory. The parting wasn't explosive, but it was absolute. One film, one mismatch, one permanent divide. And in Meryl Streep's carefully curated filmography, Bruce Willis remains the exception, the one co-star who didn't get a second take. Number 3. Jack Nicholson. When Meryl Streep faced off with Jack Nicholson in Heartburn, the result was legendary performances, but not legendary chemistry. On screen, their characters sparked. Off-screen, however, there was simmering tension no one could ignore. Streep approaches every role with precision. She prepares, she studies, she inhabits. Nicholson thrives on spontaneity, raw improvisation, emotional unpredictability, big energy. They were both masters, but from completely different schools. Crew on set observed immediate friction. Streep focused on cadence, nuance, emotional honesty. Nicholson pushed loose lines, riffed tone, cut through drama with brash energy. Scenes felt like two narratives colliding, one tightly composed, the other wildly free. Streep later commented on the experience as complicated. She wouldn't criticize Nicholson directly, but her tone told the story. When asked about working with him, she said, "You never quite know what you're going to get with Jack." That was as sharp as any criticism. There were no headline-making fights, just a chill that lingered. When Heartburn was done, so was their collaboration. Even awards season didn't bring them together. No shared stage, no joint interviews. Critics praised the film, but noted the leads felt like they were acting in different films. They never worked together again. Not on stage, not even in group projects. It wasn't dramatic, it was just final. In Streep's world, distance is enough to tell the story. Number 4. Tommy Lee Jones. Meryl Streep and Tommy Lee Jones shared the screen in the 2012 drama Hope Springs, a film about a couple in a decades-long marriage trying to reignite their connection. On screen, it was all about restraint, awkwardness, and vulnerability. Off-screen, it was about two entirely different work ethics, and one very chilly dynamic. Jones is famously gruff. He's known for being blunt, private, and allergic to anything he deems unnecessary. Streep, by contrast, brings an open, collaborative energy. She engages with the cast, talks through the subtext, and invests emotionally in every frame. With Jones, she hit a wall. According to crew sources, the pair barely spoke between takes. There was no small talk, no laughter, no rehearsal bonding. When Streep would suggest adjustments or explore alternate line readings, Jones often responded with silence or a short "fine." It wasn't confrontational, but it wasn't warm either. Streep later described Jones as a man of few words. When asked if they enjoyed working together, she answered with a carefully measured, "It was interesting." That's how Meryl Streep says someone was difficult. The energy on set reflected that tension. Jones reportedly refused to do table reads, and while Streep had no problem adjusting to his quiet intensity and character, she found the lack of connection unsettling. One insider said, "She tried, he didn't." And it showed. In post-film interviews, they were rarely seen together. Press junkets were done separately, and despite the movie's critical reception, there was no sense that they'd reunite for another project. Jones, for his part, never spoke ill of Streep, but he also never praised her. In his interviews, he focused on the script, the director, the process, never his co-star. In a career that spans decades and dozens of partnerships, Meryl Streep rarely speaks about Hope Springs. It's quietly buried in her filmography. A one-off, a solid performance, and a pairing she clearly had no interest in repeating. For her, the silence was enough to make sure it never happened again. Number 5. Ben Affleck. They've never starred opposite each other, they've never shared a scene. And yet, between Meryl Streep and Ben Affleck, there's a noticeable chill, an unspoken tension that's lingered across interviews and public appearances for years. It started in 2017, during the height of political friction in Hollywood. After Streep gave a powerful speech at the Golden Globes criticizing then-President Donald Trump, Affleck was asked for his thoughts. His response? A shrug and the remark, "She's overrated." He later claimed it was sarcasm, a jab at Trump's original insult. But the timing was poor, and Streep never responded, never mentioned it again. When asked about potentially working with Affleck in the future, she simply sidestepped the question. Affleck, always candid, hasn't softened much. In later interviews, he spoke about actors who take things a little too seriously. It wasn't a direct call-out, but many drew a line straight to Streep. Insiders say the two were once considered for a political thriller, with Affleck directing and Streep attached to star. The project vanished. Some blame scheduling, others say she passed quietly, and that's Streep's signature move. She doesn't confront, she disconnects. Despite sharing Oscar seasons and red carpets, they've never posed together. No banter, no smiles, just professional avoidance, clean and consistent. Affleck often praises contemporaries like Cate Blanchett and Viola Davis. Streep, he keeps her name out of the conversation. It's not headline-worthy, but in a town where silence is strategic, their lack of connection is loud. For someone as deliberate as Streep, even a single dismissive comment can close a door permanently. Number 6. Adrian Grenier. In The Devil Wears Prada, 2006, Adrian Grenier played Nate, a character many viewed as the film's moral center, but his presence didn't impress Meryl Streep. The story goes beyond screenwriting. Reports from early production revealed that Streep, who had final voice on some casting decisions, pushed to have Nate's role reduced, and Grenier never appeared in the 2024 sequel. Grenier noticed. In interviews, he shared his surprise at being left out, and while he didn't blame Streep outright, insiders suggest her influence and her clear discomfort with his character played a major role. She reportedly felt he diluted the film's tone, too casual against her high standards. On set, Grenier's relaxed charm clashed with the rigor Streep brought to every scene. Where she worked line by line, he riffed or improvised. That looseness struck her as unprofessional. Collaborators recall a key moment where Streep shot down a suggestion that would have expanded Nate's relationship arc. After filming wrapped, Streep and Grenier never met publicly again. When discussions of reassembling the cast came up, he was kept off the invite list. There were no reunion panels, no throwback features, and no sequel cameo. More than anything, it wasn't a scandal. No scenes were cut in anger. No interviews took bitter shots. It was simply an absence. A role quietly uncast next time around. Streep didn't speak ill of Grenier, but she didn't advocate either. To Hollywood insiders, that silence carried weight. No public statements, no counterpress, just one iconic star choosing, even subtly, to leave someone off the stage. Because with Meryl Streep, maybe the loudest message isn't what she says, it's who she leaves out. In a town built on image and charm, Meryl Streep operates differently. She's not loud, she doesn't feud in public. But when someone doesn't meet her standard, she simply steps away. No headlines, no confrontations, just silence, and a missing name on the next call sheet. Because when you're Meryl Streep, saying nothing says everything. Like and subscribe if you want more untold stories from behind the camera, and let us know in the comments, who do you think couldn't handle Streep's world?